All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Ruach HaKodesh. Want to give double honors unto our apostles and elder bishops at Great Millstone who continue to rule well and guide us through the Spirit. All right, and peace and blessings. Shalom to the Most High's hopeful elect across the four corners of the earth. All right, the true believers and the prophecies. All right, and we are waiting on the last few prophecies to come to pass, which we already see them in motion. All right, specifically speaking on WWW3, all right, in the MOTB, okay, which this whole technocracy that's being pushed and amplified is getting closer and closer to that mark being implemented. Okay, they just need a major reason, all right, to bring that order out of or the reason would be chaos. Okay, something to where people are going to be so desperate, all right, that they're going to have to make a decision: do I take this or not for survival? Okay, all right, when this is going to be happening, going on, all right, before, all right, World War III hits its pinnacle, man. Okay, so right now everybody's looking at the fact that all these attacks have been going on. Okay, but the MOTB still has to happen, man. But I was watching this interview, all right, by Cyrus Jensen, all right, with Colonel Douglas McGregor. Okay, and he was making some very key points. Okay, dealing with what's going on right now. All right, even though we're waiting on nuclear. All right, when it gets to a nuclear level, that's when the end is gonna come. Okay, right now they're using all type of missile technology, but it hasn't got to a nuclear level. Okay, so they have to go through their arsenal. The nuclear nukes are gonna be the last stance, so to speak, man. Okay, but I'm gonna play a little bit of this video, and I just wanted to get to one main point, just dealing with that, because this is not gonna be a battle on the ground. Okay, all right, we know that all the nations are gonna be gathered in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, but it's not gonna be like you're gonna have boots on the ground from all the nations gathering together in one area, and then Most High just take them all out in one. All right, we don't know how the Most High is gonna do it specifically. Okay. All right, but we know that the nations are going to be judged. Okay. All right. So I'm going to play a little bit of this video. And just real quick, it might not be in the time where I start playing it, but he had just made the point of, all right, the fact that they're trying to say that they're going to have boots on the ground, but nobody's willing to allow America to even come in, all right, to their land to set up an invasion against Iran. Okay. All right. And the main country that denied access was Turkey. Okay. Which would have been a key point or location, all right, to set up, all right, to invade Iran. So this is going to be a war fought by missiles. Okay, it's not gonna be on the ground, man. Okay, it's not gonna be no full-fledged invasion into Iran. That's not how this is gonna play out, and that's not how it's said to play out concerning prophecy. All right, but let me play a little bit of this video.
Ask you a little bit about this campaign. I mean, we've certainly bombed a lot already over the last 11 days in Iran. You mentioned earlier something interesting. All Iran has to do is survive. And you mentioned the effectiveness of the drones, that they have. I've heard some reports saying that these drones are thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands of dollars, but our missiles are sometimes multiple seven figures. How is the United States doing in terms of munition? And are we running strategically low? I think that there was already a very low percentage of our munition, given the fact of, the Ukraine war that has been going on for many years. It seems like we're already very stretched, very thin. We've talked about these missile interceptors for both the United States and Israel are running strategically low. How long?
Just real quick, this is another sign that this is Rome all over again. All right, the military being spread out. All right, struggling to keep up munition. Okay.
You think that Iran has to survive this? I mean, does the United States and Israel have, is it weeks, is it months left of military capability?
That's a shot in the dark. I don't have access to exact figures and data. So I would say a couple of things. First of all, at least at sea, the ships that launch these missiles, they're vertical launchers. They are vertical launchers inside submarines. in order to reload after you fired your magazine of missiles, you've got to go to a port. Right
Right.
now, if you're south of the Persian Gulf, you've got to go all the way to Diego Garcia. If you're in the Mediterranean, you go further north and west to ports there. That takes time, and you have to know what you're doing. Missiles are easily damaged. So, first of all, whatever you've got in your magazines, I don't know how much of it we've blown, but I'm sure a lot. And it'll become pretty clear that, some ships are going to have to go back and reload. Now, when it comes to aircraft, you only can carry so much at sea on board a carrier, and you're a long way from your target destination. There's a lot of refueling involved. We just moved a lot of refuelers out of Saudi Arabia. So we're moving further and further away from Iran because the Iranians have demonstrated their ability to reach out and kill us, at great distance. That's a problem. It's a logistical nightmare, to be blunt. And then you have the Air Force is in a little different position. The B-52s, the B-2s, they're in Europe and down in Diego Garcia or up in Great Britain. They can be loaded. They can shoot, drop, whatever they're doing, standoff, or drop. I guess they can drop gravity bombs. My experience with the gravity bombs, though, is that they really don't do much. Each 52, for instance, can drop 90 500-pound bombs. That's a lot. But most of the time, unless you have very, very accurate, up-to-date intelligence, you may not hit anything of value. Now, you can hit a city. You can blow up city blocks, kill lots of civilians. That's doable. But in terms of hitting the military in a meaningful way, not so much. Remember that the Iranians have a lot of underground facilities, much more than we realized, and with lots and lots of aircraft, lots of missiles and launchers down there. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to fly B-52s and B-2 bombers. Now, the B-2 bombers are going to launch more exotic munitions in some cases. They can all launch standard.
Hey, just real quick, man, just show you how Trump is full of shit, man. Okay? All right, the American news is lying. He's lying. All right, about how that they just obliterating Iran. All right, well, you sitting there, you idiots are hitting fake targets, man. All right, they painting planes, all right, or fighter jets on the ground, and y'all wasting, all right, thousands of dollars of weapon technology, all right, on a fucking shadow or a painting, man. Okay, all right, while Iran is tearing a hole in Israel's ass, man. Okay, all right, and they not reporting, all right, the damage that's being done, all right, to Israel, man. Okay.
Off JASM, cruise missiles and so forth. But again, at some points you step back, and I think we're doing this right now, and we're saying, what have we accomplished? What have we really done? And has it made any difference? You have to ask yourself that over and over and over again throughout a war, no matter what kind of war it is. I think we're doing that right now. So I would estimate that by the end of March, beginning of April, we'll probably be very, very low on a lot of things. Now, can we replenish in the meantime? Can we get something off the assembly line? We can't right now do a good job of surging missiles. It's not like a 155 artillery round. You can produce 100,000 of those in no time if you ramp up to it. Can't do that with Patriot missiles. Standard missiles, these kinds of things just take time.
Yeah, absolutely. Colonel, we often hear that Western media portrays Iran as a very weak military threat, to the United States. But I think, as you've mentioned here, that the objective here is to survive. They have a lot of capabilities with these drones, a lot of underground missiles. What do you think is the biggest misconception that most Americans have about Iran right now?
I think there was an assumption that the Iranians were no different from their Arab neighbors. And the Arab neighbors are not historically a martial people. They do not invest heavily in military power. Most Arab states, most of the time.
Hey, plowshares being beat in the swords, man. All right. Yeah, this is more proof just backing up the scriptures, man. Okay. All right, that you have nations that were not known for investing into military power, all right, but now are there's being a shift because they've been having to prepare because they knew what America was going to do eventually, knew what Israel was going to do eventually, man. Okay, so you have nations like Iran has been preparing for this, man, and they obviously was fucking ready.
Trying to put food on the table and keep their populations from killing each other or being restive and overthrowing their government. Good example, of course, is Egypt. There are almost 100 million people living in Egypt, and they're still on an infrastructure that was originally designed for 30,000. So they've got huge problems. They've got to feed those people. It's an enormous challenge. And that's the largest Muslim Arab state in the world. Now, when you go to Iran and Turkey, you're dealing with different people, Persians and Turks. Both Persians and Turks have very long histories. The Turks are, again, thanks to the Ottoman Empire and many centuries of domination, they represent a civilizational state that is different from Persia, just as Persia is different from the Arabs. They are martial people. And I think the Turks, if they are engaged in a war, will fight you until everyone is dead. Mm. And I think the Iranians will fight you until there is almost nothing left of them. I do not think that we're going to go there because I don't think we can keep it up. I think finance, economics, all of these things will intrude. And I also think in time, as the truth begins to come out and we see that we too have suffered casualties, which we're not really talking about, and Israel in particular is very heavily damaged, and that grows worse every day. We just had the 33rd wave of missiles and drones hurled at Israel. It's done enormous damage again. The Israeli press censors everything. You can go to jail for showing evidence of any bombing at all while it's going on. So I think the real question here is, when does Netanyahu stand up and say, that's it? And to me, that's the greatest danger. Because when he finally says, listen, we can't put up with this anymore, he's going to say, I'm going to use a nuclear weapon.
Correct.
And I don't think President Trump has the authority, the power, or the influence over him to stop that. He should, but I don't know if he does.
So that's the part I wanted to get to. All right. That is going to get to a point to where, okay, we can't take too much abuse. All right, we can't take too many more strikes. We gotta pull out the big dogs. We gotta pull out the nukes, man. Okay? That's why this war is not gonna be fought like ancient wars, man. This is gonna change the game. Why? Because this is the war to end all wars, man. Okay, so the nuclear missiles are gonna have to come out, man. Okay, because you're gonna have nations, all right, like Iran, who stacked up on missile technology and striking the state of Israel, who, well, like he said, they won't be able to keep up. So he's gonna have to pull out the big guns, man. Okay, but we know this will not happen until the MOTB comes into full fruition. Okay. All right, so this is what we're waiting on. Yeah, this is the rumors of nuclear talk, man. Okay, no nukes have been shot off. All type of ballistic missiles and other things are being used. All right, but the main thing is when the nukes are going to get shot off, and that's when the end is going to come, man. Okay, I'm going to grab one scripture real quick. This is Isaiah chapter 9, and get straight to the point, verse 5. It says, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. Like I said, this is not going to be, the scriptures tell you it's not going to be like ancient wars, man. All right. Yeah, you might have certain boots on the ground. All right, you're going to have soldiers, all right, military bases scattered around. All right, but this is already showing you this is going to be nothing but a war fought off of missile technology. And at the end of it, all right, nuclear missiles, which is going to bring about the end, all right, after the MOTB is implemented, man. Okay. It says, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire, man. And that's why even like this colonel, all right, the guy interviewing him, okay, all these people that's speaking about what's going to happen, even these leaders, they don't want to get to that point because they know that, okay, ain't no coming back from shooting a nuclear missile. Okay, but just how the Most High hardened Pharaoh's heart, he's going to do that with the leaders of this world, man. Okay, And he's going to force them to shoot off the nuclear missiles, all right, to bring about his will, which is the destruction of Esau's kingdom, all right. So the construction, all right, of Jacob's kingdom can begin under the righteous law of Yahweh Shemiah Shai, man. Okay, so this is where we're at, all right, in prophecy, man. All right, World War III is already kicked off, man. Okay, but it has the war starts in stages and it builds up, all right, to a point. Okay, and the point is going to be nuclear destruction, which is going to bring in, all right, the end of this place, all right, and the beginning of the world to come, or the age to come, all right, which is going to be the eternal kingdom, all right, promised unto the nation of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, so that's it for this lesson. All right, Lord willing, it was edifying. Once again, giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKodash. Double honors to our apostles and the bishops at Great Millstone who continue to rule well and guide us through the Spirit. Double honors to their teachers as well. And peace and blessings. Shalom to the Most High's hopeful elect. All right, through the four corners of the earth. Keep fighting, keep pushing, and keep your head on the swivel through the Spirit. Shalom.